Okay, so in the last one, it was pretty simple because we had a plus and a plus. But what if this is a minus? Well, it really depends on what this is. This is the first one that we need to look at right here. If this is a positive and this is a positive, you're going to end up with a positive binomial times a positive binomial. And I'll show you what I mean by that a little bit more specifically. But when this is a minus, what you're going to end up with every time, if this is a minus and this is a plus, that means that one of these add-ins, let's go ahead and put our factors over here, 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Okay. Now we know that positive 2 plus positive 3 is not negative 5, right? And positive 1 plus positive 6 is also not negative 5. So this is what makes it a little bit trickier. So it really helps to understand this a little bit better. But I'll tell you right now that only a negative times a negative is going to equal a positive. One of these has to be a negative, which means that both of them have to be a negative because this is a positive. And you'll see that as you work through these. So now the question is, I know that negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6, and negative 2 times negative 3 is also positive 6. But I need to know, since these are both going to be negative, I need to know which ones are going to add together to be 5. Well, negative 1 and negative 6 is going to be a negative 7. But a negative 2 and a negative 3 will add together to be a negative 5. So it's going to be a negative 2 and a negative 3. And then, of course, you can always check these. When you multiply this out, you'll see that it does come out to be x squared minus 2x minus 3x. Well, minus 2x minus 3x is minus 5x. And then, of course, negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. So that's what happens whenever you have this is a negative and this is a positive. Always check this one first. All right, let's look at the next example. Now, on this one, now this is negative. I still have the same factors of 6. Same factors of 6. The trick is what's positive and what's negative. I know I'm always going to end up with this, but now I know it can't be a positive times a positive is a negative, and it can't be a negative times a negative is a negative. So one of these is going to have to be a positive, and one of them is going to have to be a negative. So it's either plus 1 times negative 6, or negative 1 times positive 6, or positive 2 times negative 3, or negative 2 times positive 3. I don't know which. I know that I have to take a positive times a negative in order to get a negative. But the trick is, which one of these can I combine to make positive 5? Well, 1 and negative 6 makes negative 5, so that's not it. But a negative 1 and a positive 6 does make a positive 5. Positive 2 and negative 3 is a negative 1. Negative 2 and a positive 3 is a positive 1. So this is it right here. So I need a positive and a negative. I need a positive and a negative. Well, the positive has to be on the 6. So the positive 6 goes here, and the negative 1 goes here. Again, I check these. 6x minus 1x is positive 5x. You can go ahead and multiply that. You should always check them. So that's what you do when you have this one's a negative and this one's a positive. The last possibility is what if these are both negatives? Again, this is the one I'm checking first. Use my same factors, 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Well, I know in order for this to be a negative, it's going to have to be a positive times a negative in order to make a negative. Now the trick is, which one of these are going to combine together to make a negative 5? Well, negative 1 and positive 6 combine together to make a positive 5, so that's not it. But a positive 1 and a negative 6 do combine together to make a negative 5. Of course, a positive 2 and a negative 3 combine together to make a negative 1, and a negative 2 and a positive 3 combine together to make a positive 1. The only ones that combine together to make a negative 5 are a positive 1 and a negative 6. So the positive 1 has to go here, and the negative 6 has to go here. And again, you should check them. All right, so let's kind of put all that into a nutshell, kind of a guide. You can use this or not. If you've got in your quadratic a positive and a positive, your binomial is going to look like this. Positive on both of them. If your second or your last term in your quadratic is positive, but there's a negative in front of the middle term, negative times a negative is the only thing that can make a positive. A negative times a negative is the only thing that can make a positive. Both of these right here, for the last one, it's going to have to be a positive times a negative. Both of them, whether it's This one is a positive or a negative, it does not matter. But if the numbers you're multiplying together make a negative, then you know that you're going to end up with a positive times a negative. The trick is to figure out which one's bigger. That's the trick. And you'll see that as you practice this. But both of those are going to end up being a positive times a negative binomial. Again, you need to practice these. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.